Good morning. This is a recording for Friday, October 20th. I decided to do several recordings in different parts of the Central Park for you, just to be sure that we don't get into the poor sound issue um, that happened on Wednesday and that I had to re-record eventually. Anyway, now we'll just dive into our content for today. At our last session, we talked about why it's so important to tell your story of hurt and harm and about the cost of not telling it. We also discussed how to approach the storytelling. Stick to the facts, remember what really happened in as much detail as possible, being very honest with yourself, and remind yourself that you cannot change the past. Today, let's talk about how to approach deciding whom to tell your story. As you can imagine, this can be quite tricky. You probably noticed in the exercise we did in the past few days that even telling your story to yourself is not very comfortable. So, ideally, you want to tell it to a person who caused you harm, to your perpetrator, because there is a profound reclaiming of dignity and strength when you are able to stand in front of your abuser, stand in your truth, and speak of how that person hurt you. Desmond Tutu says, I believe this is the quickest way to find both peace and the will to forgive. However, it's not easy. It's not always possible. It's not, it may not be even practical. For this to work, the perpetrator has to be receptive, and you have to be sure they will not cause you even more harm. Ideally, they have shown remorse, they are asking for your forgiveness, and willing to witness the pain they have caused by listening to your story. In the ideal model of forgiveness, there is an exchange of stories, and if done with total honesty and no justification or rationalization on the part of the perpetrator, there can be great understanding and healing between the two people. And it's very important to know that you need to be able to tell your story from a place of safety and from a place of feeling validated, affirmed. So even if you think you are able to speak directly to the one you want to forgive, it may be better for you to share your story with others first, with other with another person who you trust fully, whether it's a family member or a dear friend or a therapist. As long as the one to whom you're telling the story is affirming, empathetic, and trustworthy, you will move forward in the process of forgiveness. And if there is no one you trust, then you can always write your story down in a letter to your perpetrator, even if it's a letter you cannot ever send out. When we tell the truth about our hurt and our loss, we lessen the power it has over us, and the healing begins. If you do choose to speak to the person who has harmed you, be aware that it is a very delicate matter. If not done with care, it makes matters even worse. We have very little understanding of forgiveness and very few rituals for forgiving in our modern society. It is easy for people to feel attacked or become defensive when confronted. The power of the human mind to justify its actions is truly endless. No villain has ever thought he was a villain. Hitler, Stalin, every terrorist and serial murderer, every person has a reason why their actions were justified. The way to understand any enemy is to realize that from their perspective, they are not a villain, but may actually be a hero. They may see themselves as a hero. There is no guarantee the person who harmed you will acknowledge that what they did was wrong. Yet there are always ways to increase the likelihood that telling your story will lead to resolution rather than more conflict. So, if it is possible, you can begin by affirming your relationship with this person and its importance to you. What has this person meant to you? How have they helped you, not just harmed you? Our relationships are rarely one dimensional, especially with people who we know intimately. A father could be boorish and abusive, but could also be funny, engaging, and kind all at the same time. If you can show the person that you see their goodness, then they don't have to work so hard to defend themselves. If you can have empathy for why the perpetrator may have done what they did. Remember, it doesn't mean that you condone the deed itself. You can separate the sin from the sinner. And if you have empathy for the one who victimized you, it is much more likely that they will have empathy for you too. Of course, this is not guaranteed to work, but it can help. We often see people as independent and acting solely on their free will. But the truth on their free will, but the truth is that they are, I'm sorry, I totally messed it up. We often see people as independent and acting solely of their free will. But the truth is, we are all interdependent. We are embedded in social webs that affect our choices and our behavior. You can also choose to tell your story publicly, whether it's here in our mindful morning sangha or from some public stage. It can be a really powerful way to start the healing process. And not only for yourself, but for others who may learn something from your story and have the courage to step on the road of forgiveness themselves because of you, because of your role modeling. It can also be truly healing to read about how others travel the difficult road of forgiveness. I'll actually post some forgiveness story websites later today if you want to check them out or maybe even submit your story. And we may need to tell our stories many times over to many different people and in many different forms before we are ready to move forward in the forgiveness process. We also may find that just telling your story relieves a burden you carried. When we tell the stories, we are practicing a form of acceptance. When we tell our stories, we're saying, this horrible things happen, and I cannot go back and change it. But I can refuse to stay trapped in the past forever. We have reached acceptance when we finally recognize that paying back someone in kind will never make us feel better or undo the harm that has been done. To quote the comedian Lily Tomlin, forgiveness means giving up all hope for a better past. Forgiveness means giving up all hope for a better past. And we must remember that yes, it is important to tell your story. And it's equally important not to get trapped in your story. It's not just what happened to us that matters, but how what happened hurt us. So in the next few sessions, we will find ways to name that hurt. And today we will do the box of sorrows practice again. But before we go there, let me read a poem offered in the book. As I read it, listen to what your heart hears. To whom shall I tell my story? Who will hear my truth? Who can open the space that my words want to fill? Who will hold open the space for the words that tumble out in fast cutting shards, and the words that stumble hesitantly into the world, unsure of their welcome? Can you hold that space open for me? Can you keep your questions and suggestions and judgments at bay? Can you wait with me for the truths that stay hidden behind my sadness, behind my fear, my forgetting, and my pain? Can you just hold open a space for me to tell my story? Now take a comfortable position, and as always, take a few moments to settle. Settle into your body, into your heart, your mind. Settle into this moment, right here, right now. Nice and soft breath. See if you can get a sense of spaciousness in your breathing so that all the experiences of the present moment can flow through you as energy that they are, without struggle. Now take a few moments to step into your safe space. Remember, it can be real or imaginary. It can be indoors or outdoors. It can be the same as the space you created the other day, or it can be something different. You can have several safe spaces. Wherever you imagine yourself right now, inhabit it. How does the safety feel in your bones, in your heart, in your mind? And now you hear that someone is calling for you. This person is calling you in a voice filled with warmth, love, and delight to see you. When you are ready, welcome them into your safe place. And notice how this person's presence increases your sense of safety, increases your sense of assurance. Who is your companion today? The same as in the other practice? Or maybe it's a different person? Whoever it is must be a person who is totally accepting, affirming, utterly trustworthy. Between you and your companion sits an open box. It is small and light enough for you to lift and hold. Notice its size, shape, and texture. This is your box of sorrows. Now it's empty and it will receive your story. The story of your hurts and harms, whatever you want to share. So start telling your companion the story that you have carried. Tell the truth about how you have been wounded, disrespected, shamed, disregarded. Stay as factual as possible, and at the same time remember as many details as you can. As you speak, notice how your words and the hurt are being poured out of your mouth and into the box, filling the box with your sorrows. There is no rush. Your companion has time to listen. All they want right now is to be with you and to witness you telling the story. When you feel done, close the box of sorrows. Maybe keep it in your lap for a few moments, kind of saying goodbye to it, and then give it to your trusted companion. And remember that this person will take the box with them. But if you feel they need to revisit it, to open it again, tell more details of the story, or just kind of retell it word for word, they can bring it back to you. It's not lost. It's just that you don't have to carry it alone anymore. You have shared your sorrows. So thank your companion, thank the safe space you created, thank yourself for doing this powerful work. Place your hands on your heart and send the energy of loving kindness to yourself. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well in body and mind. May I be happy, healthy, at ease. May I know deep, natural peace. As you gently let go of your practice now, scan your body and notice what's going on for you in this moment, physically, emotionally, mentally. How are you really? And as you go through your day today, I invite you to contemplate that telling our stories relieves a burden we have carried. And that forgiveness means giving up all hope for a better past. How does this notion sit with you? Are you ready to start telling your story to somebody other than yourself? Today, I will also do a post for the stone ritual number 4. And as always, I'll post it both in this public group and also in our Mindful Mornings private circle group to create a more in-depth discussion around it, if you're willing to do so, of course. Thank you so much for being here today. Have a beautiful day, and I will see you tomorrow.